kept back out there, and I think that will help him behave himself next time on the court. Now let's go and see what's happening in the female category at the same Australian Open in Melbourne. Kingsley, it looks very interesting. A lot of pressure on Coco Gauff, a lot of expectation as well. She seems to be living up to it right now. She's at the quarterfinal of the US Open. She took out her opponent 7-5. For the first time she lost. This is the first time she's dropping a set so far in the competition. But she was able to come back 6-2, 6-love in the second set against Belinda Bencic. Belinda Bencic, if you remember, only returned back to tennis after giving birth and taking some holiday. But it looks like a fairy tale has come to an end at the fourth round of the Australian Open. She showed some class, taking that the first set. Like I mentioned, this is the first time Coco Gauff would drop a first set, drop a set at the Australian Open.
It was a very impressive performance, or dominant performance you see from Coco Gauff. Dropping the first set, but was able to bounce back in the second and the third set in that one. I think for me, it's a good one for the 20-year-old who has actually done a lot for herself. We saw how she improved last season, and coming down to this season as well, she's not relenting, beating a player like Belinda Bencic. Though some would say, of course, Bencic not really in the best of form, looking at the fact that she's just coming back from maternity, leave and all of that. You don't really expect her, of course, to be at her very best. I think this is what also happened to tennis players. Whenever they come back from maternity leave, they are not always at their best. Take a look at the likes of Naomi Osaka. She's been struggling, since she came back from maternity leave, and that's what we're also seeing for Belinda Bencic as well. It's always not been easy for these tennis players to bounce back whenever they give birth to a child. But for Coco Gauff, I think it's been an impressive one. The atmosphere was very, very hot, but she even had to deal with that and take her winning streak, I think, to 11 matches at this point in time.
9 consecutive streak now at the and that's good for Coco Gauff. The American looks to be very strong. She only, after that match, seemed to be ruined in the absence of TikTok, or did I say the ban on TikTok. She has about 750,000 followers on TikTok, and she's only hoping that by the time this tournament is over, in fact, from tomorrow when Donald Trump takes over as President of the United States of America, there could be some reprieve for TikTok to bounce back. She tried to relax using her TikTok, but that didn't work after the qualifier for the quarterfinal stage of the competition. Let's look at some other results there. Aryna Sabalenka, the world #1 female tennis player, seemed to be firing on as well and doing so well. She's into the quarterfinal of this year's Australian Open. She is the defending champion, and she took out her opponent in what looks very easy for me, 6-2, 6-1, 6-2. It ended straight set win for Aryna Sabalenka there. Mira Mijerovic suffering from
time for Aryna Sabalenka. Andrea, 17 years of age, of course, you don't really expect her to be that dogged against a very, very impressive and fantastic Aryna Sabalenka, who has been firing since the year got started. I think for me it was an easy one, 6-1, 6-2 for Aryna Sabalenka. This is a statement of intent that she's aiming higher, and she really wants to, of course, get things right at this point in time. I think if she can be able to get past the quarterfinal stage, she'll be locking on with Coco Gauff. Another interesting tie, of course, will be what looking out for both. For Sabalenka, I think her head is up there. She won't really want to get this one once again. Don't forget, she's aiming for a hat-trick this time, the Australian Open. So that's a very huge motivation for Aryna Sabalenka, and that's why she's not relenting. Let's see how far she'll go in the competition.
Coco Gauff, Aryna Sabalenka in the quarterfinals?
Yeah, definitely.
that's the grass, the tennis court will suffer. I can tell you that because these two players are having some best of performance, best of time on the tennis court there. Meanwhile, Polojikova has sent out Dokic. This is what looks to me like an average game, 7-6 in the first set, and she came back strong in the second, 6-love, and that was it for Polojikova.
Yeah, definitely. It was really an impressive game, of course, for Pavlyuchenkova. 7-6, 6-love in that game. The first set was a little bit tricky.
Yugoslav Vokic, Donald Vokic, you think she's done good enough to at least qualify for the round of 16?
It all depends on her form. For me, I don't really think she's done so well over time, and that's why, of course, this actually happened at this point in time. She tried in the first set, but the second set, she really relents. She couldn't even rack up any points in that second set. 6-love it ended, and that was that Pavlyuchenkova was able to go through in that particular one. But it's a good one. We just hope that Pavlyuchenkova will probably I try to see, at Tracy, she can definitely go far in the competition.
Paolo Barroso is into the quarterfinals as well. Olga Ganovic has been sent packing. Looks easy, 6-love, 7-6.
Impressive one for Paula Badoza. Of course, I expected that performance from her. She's one name that I've been in the scene for some time. But we really expect that, spark, from her at this point in time.
There's a lot more to come on our program bright and early tomorrow when we bring you some more results coming from the Australian Open. But the quarterfinal stage is here after the 8 of the Australian Open, and the top seeds are beginning to show that, yes, in fact, to use the common parlance, the boys are being sent home while the men are remaining. And you say the women are still in the competition while the girls have gone home, Kingsley?
Yeah, definitely. The women are still in the competition. The likes of Arina Sabalenka is still there. Coco Gauff is still there.
Coco Gauff is just 21.
But she's a woman, if you want to say,
in tennis.
In this contest.
Well, so we take our break here. When we return from the break, we'll look at more exciting fixtures in football. The CAF Conference Cup is here. And of course, the last games are being played. Enyimba International seem to have played last, but they may improve on their position, but to qualify, no, they will not qualify because after this match, they definitely will be out of the competition for the year. While Enyimba is going home, CF Safin of Tunisia as well won today by 4-0 to keep them in competition. They as well crashed out of the competition. We'll look at the Champions League across Africa as well. Beyond that, we'll look at what is happening in Europe. Manchester United suffered her 6th home defeat earlier today at Trafford. Arsenal stumbled last night against the opponent as well. So a lot more to bring to you from the Premiership in England, across Europe too as well. The La Liga, Real Madrid is catching up with Atletico Madrid on the top of the La Liga. All of this we'll return from the break.
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on today, only on ATN. From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economic, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
back, Sports Extraordinary this Sunday, and we'll bring you up to speed with the latest happening around the world of sports. Earlier, we told you how it's been an interesting quarter-final pairing at the Australian Open. Qualifiers for the quarterfinals too are the established pair, both the men and the women are the ones already there. We don't have any surprise yet in terms of qualifiers for the quarterfinals stage, but later tonight we'll see what happens, or just the early hours of tomorrow morning out there in Australia, because we still have some very young lads as young as 18, 20. You remember Leonardine still in the race. Meanwhile, we looked at the for men and Novak Djokovic looking at making history as well at the Australian Open. We all will be following it up for you. But let's look at football. But just before we look at football proper, Kingsley, results, let's get this from the Nigerian Football Federation. We understand a 4-month course for CAF B license is in the offing, and any moment soon, the Nigerian Football Federation of Nigeria, will be organizing this course for coaches here in Nigeria. CAF B license is very important if you must be a top-level coach in Africa. Definitely,
very, very important at this point. I think for me, is a good initiative from the Nigerian Football Federation, looking at the fact that, some coaches down here in Nigeria do not have the opportunity to go for such training, maybe outside the country, to coach here in Africa. You can see some coaches, you are head coach of a team, yet you cannot sit on the bench when you are playing in a CAF competition. You must have these licenses, and I think the Nigerian Football Federation technical department is done so well of organizing this one for coaches here in Nigeria. Now let's look at the weekend fixtures at the CAF Confederations Cup and the CAF Champions League. First, Kingsley, let's look at the CAF Champions League. It's getting more and more interesting which of the teams are going to qualify for the CAF Champions League. But as it stands now, it's clear that Mamelodi Sundowns will be one of the teams that will qualify for the quarter-final stage of the competition, because they've, yes, they are beating their counterparts from Morocco, FAR Rabat of Morocco, by 1-0 as we speak. Impressive one, of course, but Mamelodi Sundowns, I think they've done well so far in the competition, already qualified, for the next round of the competition, having that impressive outing against Asphalt Morocco as we speak. I think they are currently topping their group, as it stands, with about if they're 11 points, down there, and winning this one, of course, will further improve the points, down there for them. One of the traditional side has to do with the CAF, Champions League. I think for me, it's been an impressive ride for them. Leading against, Asphalt at the moment, it shows a huge statement of intent that, of course, they might also once again get down to the very end of this particular one.
Mamelodi Sundowns leading the FARs of Morocco. Yes, Sundowns are qualified, but the same. FAR may be losing, but they have qualified already for the, looking at the table, they have qualified already for the quarter-final stage of the CAF Champions League, meaning that Raja, who presently is winning more union, or is may win, but it doesn't. It's academic. It will not make them to qualify, because FAR of Morocco have already gotten it. So Raja cannot be another Moroccan side qualifying here. So we have Sundowns and FAR of Morocco qualifying, while Raja will win today, but they cannot qualify for the quarterfinal stage of this year's CAF Champions League.
Yeah, I think for me they're a very tricky one, down there. But I think if you take a look at it, as far they've done so well so far in the competition, as seated second down there in the competition.
The first two teams, Sundowns and FAR of Morocco, will qualify from that group. So now let's look at the CAF Confederations Cup. It's before this fixture, we saw that CS Safin were placed last on the group. They had no point at all, but a few minutes ago they beat their counterparts Monaire by 4-0, which is purely academic. Out of 4 games, this is their first win, and I think it's a way of that's a decent way of signing off from the CAF Confederations Cup for 2024-2025 season.
For me, it's a very disappointing one, seeing a team like CS Safin, who
former champions,
finishing bottom of their group. It's actually a very, very disappointing one, at this point in time. And what we ask, what could be possibly the issue? Where they have, in a group where they have the likes of Simba FC, Constantine, host team or quiz, I think we should be able to see CS
Is that the Angolan side that is weak, if you ask me?
We should be seeing CS and of course, topping that particular one, but the reverse is the case at this point in time. Probably maybe African football is gradually developing. Other teams are also gearing up and trying to live up to expectation at this point in time. Or probably maybe done well in terms of players recruitment and players not also living up to expectation of the pitch. So a lot of questions to ask when it has to do with this performance from CSFN.
Meanwhile, Simba is beating Constantine by 2-0, but looks like this will be, yes, they may lose, but still qualify for the CAF Confederation Cup quarterfinal. Talking about CF Constantine from Algeria.
It's a game of no consequences for Simba FC because they're already there, in the next round of the competition. I think this is just for them to, strengthen the legs of some other players that have not really tested the game so far, to have a feel of what the competition is.
Somehow, Simba is first in that group.
Yeah.
Now they are playing Constantine, who is second in the group, and they're beating them, just confirming their superiority in the group. And Constantine was just, okay, well, fine, we'll lose to you, but we'll maybe reserve our strength for the quarterfinal stage of the competition. They've already qualified, and you think maybe that's the reason why they're conceding by 2 goals, as to speak?
For me, I think Simba, they're the better side in that group, and that's why they're dominating that one. If Constantine, they have the opportunity, they would have been leading in that encounter. But if you take a look at it so far, Simba, they are the better side in that group.
Simba is a Tanzanian club side, Simba of Tanzania, while CS Constantine is from Algeria.
Yeah, and of course, you can see the superiority down there. Football gradually improving, of course, in Tanzania. From what we're seeing, don't forget, I think they're one of the hosts of the Chan tournament as well. So you can see that Tanzania are gradually improving when it has to do with their football.
Let's look at the group where we have Arabi Bekene. They too are in. They have already qualified for the competition, but they have still a bunch to contend with later tonight at 8 p.m. Nigerian time. This is for me merely an academic fixture because they are already qualifiers from the group.
Yeah, for me, I think impressive one, if you ask me, for both Arabi Bekene and Silla Boys. Silla Boys is one team coming up, I think, from South Africa. Just a surprising side, down there, shaking up African football at this point in time. I think they've done so well when you take a look at how far they've been able to go, in the competition. I just hope that they'll be able to pull more strengths. Out of 5 games played so far, they've been able to rack up 9 points. While Arabi Bekene played 5 games, they've gathered 13 points. But I must give it up to Stella Boyd, who actually, of course, are doing so well at this point in time. They're from South Africa, where, of course, football is a bit organized, and that's why we're seeing them, putting up this particular encounter. Leading in that group, and it's the likes of Stade Malian. I think for me, it's a good one for the Stella.
No matter what happens in that fixture, they will not qualify. Both of them cannot move to the quarterfinal stage of the competition.
Yeah, for me, I think it's actually not a game that people want to put their eyes on because no much consequences. The only consequences is the fact that they'll be going back home, at the end of the day, not being able to qualify in that encounter. ASEC Mimosa, I think for me, they also another team that a lot of expectation were on them to qualify, but the reverse has been the case at this point in time. I think for me, game of no consequences, they'll be going back home.
US Alger of Algeria is up against a Senegalese side, Giraffe FC, and that match will come up by 8 p.m. Nigerian time today. Kingsley. Both of them have qualified. US Alger and, of course, the Senegalese side are already into the quarterfinal stage of the competition. Yeah,
both of them have actually qualified, and it's been an impressive ride so far for them. For USM Algiers, 5 games played so far, 11 points rack up down.
They are first in the group?
First in the group, and probably they might be showing their superiority tonight, just like Simba actually did, of course, in Group A as well. Let's see if they can be able, of course, to beat a Giraffe, and they'll go further in augmenting their points, probably to see about 14 points they'll be going if they get that all 3 points against Giraffe for tonight.
Well, let's look at the Group D, the group where we have Nigeria's Enyimba International. As we speak, it's just about 2 minutes to the end of the encounter, but with 2 Egyptian club sides in that group they are playing at home. Al Masry has just about 2 minutes to the end of the encounter, and it's 3-1 against Black Bulls. Kingsley, no doubt they deserve to qualify for the quarterfinal stage of the competition.
They deserve to qualify for the quarterfinal stage. I think they've done so well. when you take a look at what they've done so far, 6 games played and 9 points already. If you add to this one as well, definitely they'll be going home with about 12 points.
No, that would be 9 points. That would be 9 points.
9 points, okay. Yes. 9 points, qualifying with the 9 points, as it stands. So for me, I think it's really been an impressive one for Al Masry. I think both teams qualifying for that group are from Egyptian teams.
Yeah, Zamalek, as we speak, has just 2 minutes to wrap up their match against Enyimba International of Aba, Nigeria. And Enyimba, as we speak, is losing by 3-1. Zamalek 3, Enyimba 1 goal. Enyimba considered first. They managed to equalize 1-1, but the Egyptian club side came back to 2-1 and 3-1. And now Enyimba is confined to crash out of the competition. They knew this at least before they left Nigeria for Zamalek to play this encounter. Definitely,
of course, wasn't going to be a very easy one. That's why what we saw down here, at home, where at least they were able to rack up, I think a point in that encounter. It's been a very abysmal one. I think for me, I won't blame the coach. Talked about Stanley Guma in this particular one. I think he was able to manage just 2 games. I think 3 games. In this particular
competition. He won 1, drew 1.
Yeah.
And lost 1-1. Lost 2. He lost to this Al Masry at the Godswill Pabio Stadium, if you remember. And now he's losing at another one. Egyptian club sides and Nigeria, what is it?
I think for me, it's the level of football down there. You can't compare the level of football in Egypt down to Nigeria here. We're not just close at all when it has to do with football development or football management. The Egyptian side are well organized. Always very difficult, of course, for you to defeat them, and that's what we're seeing. This is actually very, very clear at this point in time. I think for me, we've actually seen a huge decline for Nigerian teams when it has to do with continental games, and this is what we're seeing at this point in time for Enyimba Football Club.
2 Egyptian clubs, Zamalek coming first in that group, Al Masry coming second in the group. Enyimba is third, and we have the Maputo side coming fourth in that group. Black Bulls from Maputo coming fourth in the group there. How does this impact on our rating from CAF? And do you see us producing 2 teams in this competition, both for the CAF Champions League and the CAF Confederations Cup?
I think for me, it's that the chances will be slim. I think there was a report this week where I think if you take a look at it, the rating now, the Nigerian league is now being rated 13th now in Africa, no longer in the top 10 anymore when it has to do with football league in Africa. And for me, that decline, and with what our teams have been doing so far in the continental games, we might not have that opportunity of sending 2 teams for the CAF Champions League and the CAF Confederation Cup anymore, because from what we've seen so far, despite the investment from Benga 11 and his board, I don't think the teams have done so well in the continent, and that's for me will actually bring a huge decline when it has to do with we sending teams to the continental games.
Well, Black Bulls coming last in that group, Mozambican side, they're coming last, Enyimba International third, and I think, like you said, it's now beginning to be dim for Nigeria to produce 2 teams at the competition. But I think having played up to the group stage of the competition should be a saving grace for Nigeria. Now let's go across to Europe because we're running out of time. Kingsley, earlier on today we saw Everton beat Turin Hotspurs by 3-2. But a lot of fans here in Nigeria have looked up to the Manchester United match being played at Old Trafford against Brighton. And Brighton 3-1 at the end of 90 minutes plus added time in that fixture. Manchester United 6 losses so far at Old Trafford this season. Overall, they've lost 10 times in the 2024-2025 football season. Manchester United struggling with the 15th place position on the league table. What can be happening to the Red Devils from Old Trafford?
A very, very disappointing one. I think for me, they've not still gotten their mojo. Amorim is still finding it difficult to instill his philosophy with the side. You see them win today, but lose tomorrow. That's not, of course, a team that could possibly challenge maybe for the title or for continental sports at this point in time. So it's still a very difficult one for Ruben Amorim to change things at Manchester United, but we just hope to see how he can be able to put the team in order. It's really been not a very good one for Manchester United.
From England, let's quickly go to Spain. The La Liga, Real Madrid beat Las Palmas 4-1, and they are the new leaders on top of the La Liga table.
Impressive one, of course, for them. I think they have to top that one due to the loss for Atletico Madrid yesterday against Leganes. And for me, It's been an impressive one for Real Madrid. We'll just hope that they'll be able to lift the title, because this season they've actually experienced a little bit of struggle, even in the Champions League and a bit in the Spanish La Liga. Don't forget, about 4 days ago, Barcelona thrashed them, I think, 4 or 5 goals to 1 in the Spanish Super Cup. So for me, we'll just hope that, they'll be able to get this one at the end of the day.
Arsenal, do they still have any chance of getting at the title this year, because they drew at home at the Emirates Stadium last night 2-2 with Aston Villa?
It's a very difficult for Arsenal. That's just the case. I don't even see them winning the title, or maybe contending at this point in time, because they would have taken all 3 points back home. They were leading 2 goals to nil in that encounter, and all of a sudden we saw Aston Villa equalizing, and it ended in 2-2 draw. For me, I don't really think Arsenal are very much serious for the title this season.
If you are a follower of Italian football, Inter Milan will take on their counterparts later tonight. They will take on Empoli, and if they win that match, they will cement their second place position on the Italian Serie A table. Time for us to bring you our sports extraordinaire for this Sunday, and it couldn't have been any other than Novak Djokovic. Kingsley, Novak Djokovic is beginning to inch closer to history.
Yeah, definitely. He's actually putting up a huge record for himself. He has reached the quarterfinals of the Australian Open now 15 good times. A record he now shares with Roger Federer, and one ahead of for the likes of Rafael Nadal and John Newcombe. Very impressive one so far for Novak Djokovic. Novak
Djokovic and Roger Federer are the only 2 tennis players in the world that has made 15 times at the Australian Open. That's quite a huge one, and of course 2 of them are friends, and they always see how they meet up their records out there. That will be it for this edition of Sports Extraordinary.